Well, hello, my friends, and welcome to another live on this channel. Apparently, today is one of those days where I go live before I even open up OBS. So, I've had a few things I want to do. I saw the Michael movie yesterday. It was amazing, honestly. And there was one part. One second. You and me. You and me. um. Anyway, so yeah, I saw the movie. It was amazing. There was one point. What I liked about the movie. You can't see me yet. Oh goodness. Oh man. I may be overhydrated again. This is one of I don't have many gripes about being human, but going to the bathroom is one of them. Like, I gotta drink enough water to be hydrated, but I don't want to drink so much that I gotta go to the bathroom every 20 minutes to 2 hours. You know what I mean? Goodness. Anyway. anyway. Yeah, so I saw the movie. It was amazing. There was one point, I don't know if it was the scene where he was talking about um, when he was in the pool and he was like, there was a comment he made about like being open, like being an open channel. He was like, I got to be in a zone to receive the songs from God. And because if I'm not ready to receive it, or if I'm not there to receive it, then he might give it to Prince or something like that. Excuse me. Well, no, because it was like the part, let your light so shine. And it made me think of like so many times I feel like when I'm like live and reading whatever. Un momento. There we go. Okay. I know you still can't see me. Um, and I just took another sip of water and I'm already under threat of needing to take a step away. um, and yeah, it made me think of, I feel like there are times, especially when things are like especially difficult or rough, or there's like a rough energy that comes up where it's just like, I feel like I get so distracted. I feel like a dog, squirrel. Um, where there's just be an energy that comes in that's like super like supportive and amazing. And it's just like life doesn't have to be what it is. And I feel like I don't know how one would. I feel like it's getting a little warm. I feel like I don't do a great job at I mean, I feel like even if I did a good job of communicating it, I don't know. Maybe it comes through and I just don't know it, right? But I don't know. It was like I was watching the movie and I was like, you know what? I feel like it's time to, in a certain way, practice what I preach and just like really take living to the next level in terms of, and I guess like slowly but surely, things are heading in certain directions. Um, and resolution is a coming in. New starts and new beginnings abound. Excuse me, because it's that time. But I wanted to do something like relate. I wanted to do a self read, kind of, sort of, in a way that I've done it before, but also not. But then also, I remembered that two of Pentacles, and I've kind of also been wanting to do a magic versus alchemy type thing. With the two of diamonds, that was the final card a few lives ago. I may have talked about it, but I don't know how much I touched on it. Where it was like there is the law of equivalent exchange, but and it kind of sort of goes back to the whole thing about constructs, right? How you may have a mental construct for a spiritual energy that produces some kind of earthly material phenomenon, right? If faith and trust are this mental spiritual sort of construct that has that like can impact our world and reality, then they have like earthly phenomena or effects. And how, excuse me, with the rock and the boulder, or the boulder and the piece of paper, how, since it would be like a violation of the law of physics, it, and with that, it's like there's a difference. There's a difference between transmuting something into something else and stuff like that. Oh, it's a train coming through. Or not. It almost sounded like one, but that would have just been a car or a few cars. Anyway, um, yeah, there's a difference between that and the whole like the addition of stuff, right? You could say alchemy would be something like breaking $5 into one, breaking a $5 bill into five $1 bills, or breaking a 100 into a 20, into like 20s, 10s, fives, and ones, to do different things with different parts of the currency, to basically to buy stuff with that $100, right? It turns into whatever. Like if an apple, you get five apples. If it's $1 an apple, turning $5 into five $1 bills, and then those $1 bills into five apples would be like alchemy, the transmutation. But magic would be like turning $5 into 10 apples, 23 oranges, 11 pears, and a whole coconut. You get more out of it than you put into it. So it's not necessarily about equivalency. Because that was kind of sort of the energy with that um, recoupling. And then I was like, how could I feel like, I don't know. I feel like I'm getting warm and tired. I don't want to look at the split yet. So then I thought about doing that instead of this self read. And I'm trying to think of the cards I would use. I mean, I could do Temperance and the Magician for Temperance for alchemy, the Magician for magic. Um, and it's also, it's like, okay, because I'm trying to get a metaphor pinned down. It's probably not going to happen because there's, so as I'm thinking about magic versus alchemy, like creation versus transmutation. Again, it's like with magic, there's that principle of constructs. Not only are there constructs of that perform some kind of physical, spiritual, energetic, emotional, mental, excuse me, shift, but it uses like the different qualities of those different things, right? It's like with transmutation, you're going to get physical for physical, emotional for emotional, spiritual for spiritual. And then there's whatever sort of naturally occurs because of that, right? For example, it's like if you were to rearrange the planets in the solar system, then their different relative masses, distances from each other and from the sun, like those different gravitational, the changes in the gravity, the delicate balance of gravity in the solar system would cause things to just sort of come to a new form of alignment, right? But, and that would be like more so like transmutation alchemy because it's sort of a natural result to something, right? It's like if you plant a weed in, or not even a weed, if you bring something highly prolific to an area, you introduce it to a new area, and conditions are still favorable enough for it to still be highly prolific, it's going to completely change that ecosystem, right? You can make a desert green, or you can chase out all of the one animals in an area and replace them with bunny rabbits. You know what I mean? But it's like the differences in quality really come into play in magic. Because let's say, like, if you do use, um, I want to say, I don't want to go there. Like, if you say that something is like thoughts become things, right? And so I feel like I have it. Excuse me. I feel like I have it in my mind. I was going to use an example of currencies, but I feel like that would make it almost a little transmuty. But if you think of it, I guess, as currencies, right? If you have five GBP, British pounds, you have five US dollars, and then you have five pesos, they're not all worth the same amount of money. Their absolute value as compared to, or the relative value as compared to each other, which speaks to an absolute worth, especially when it comes to the exchange of currency for goods and services. It's like your GBPs will get you a lot further than their than your US dollars or your pesos. And so magic is almost like using a different currency that'll take you a lot farther because then it seems like you get more bang for your buck, but it's like it could be denser. Okay. So in the story that I was talking about, the one where as people level up, they get more and more magical, and then their bodies become more and more of their body soul matrix and less of organs that they need for their body to function. So after a certain point in their evolution, they don't need to breathe anymore because they don't have brains and lungs and hearts to pump blood throughout their bodies. They're made of flesh and magic. I don't know. In that world, you also get there's a currency. Excuse me. There's a currency called spirit coins, and spirit coins also fall within those categories. You can rank them from one to five, or you can give them bronze, bronze, iron, silver, gold. And like a gold spirit coin has it's like more densely concentrated magic. And so for any magical items or rituals or whatever that require more magic, depending on there are some circumstances where you can use a higher denomination or lower, but it's more densely concentrated magic. It's like basically more raw magic in the coin, so you can do a lot more with it than a physical sort of counterpart, right? And so that was like, when it comes to like thoughts becoming things, there is a certain fluidity to thought, but there's a denseness of the material plane. So you may have to like concentrate a lot of thoughts to get it dense enough for it to manifest in reality. Anyway, I feel like, yeah. So it's like because it uses something that's more densely charged, you get a lot further with it. Justice in the Page of Cups. I wanted to look at the split as a sort of theme. Justice in the Page of Cups is giving a conscience, like a Jiminy Cricket. Or, okay, it's fine. We'll give it a few shuffles. We'll give it a few shuffles and do another one. I'm gonna have to go potty. Once I start going, I'm not gonna stop. I have a drinking problem. I feel like if there's liquid in front of me, I have to drink it. I feel like I dehydrate easily because I'm like always, I used to be more sweaty. I sweat easy. I feel like I'm always dehydrated. I can't stop drinking when there's a drink in front of me, and I don't like going to the restroom. So it's just torture. All right, the Ten of Swords and the Ace of Swords. We have the Ten of. Oh, I kind of love it because it was the Ace of Spades and the Ten of Spades around those two jokers that sort of precipitated this whole thing. But now instead of spades, we see it as swords. Obviously, it could be some kind of endings and beginnings. But it's also maybe not the price of knowledge or the cost of knowledge. I don't know. Obviously, we're deep into take it as it resonates territory because, right? Now the high priestess is with that Ten of Swords. See, back to like the cost of information with the high priestess and the Ten of Swords, it could almost be like a potential information overload. Now, when we saw the Ace of Swords and the when we saw the Ace of Spades and the Ten of Spades with the King of Swords, it was an energy of boundless potential in someone who knows how to use it. So let's do the Magician and Temperance as significators of alchemy and magic. One second. Can y'all hear the fan if I turn it on? I think my laptop's getting a little warm. So I'm going to lift the stand so it can ventilate a little bit. Give me a moment. I started to hear some kind of like whistling. Sorry. I'm going to mute. I'm going to mute this, run to the restroom, raise my laptop, and then I'll be back. All right, I'm back. But I have not raised my laptop. Sorry. If I could ever do a video within 20 minutes and the first 20 minutes weren't just me piddling around, then maybe I'm not me. I'm just kidding. All right. Laptop is raised. Ventilation is happening. I am continuing. I had a thought. I don't remember what it is or was. Who is this? The Seven of Swords. The Seven of Swords in the Water Known Tarot specifically is my card of birthright. The Seven of Swords in the Water Known Tarot was my card of birthright before I got the SKT that has the fox that sleeps next to the path. And once you go down the path, then your companion awakens and accompanies you. Basically, I don't know if y'all can hear that. Sounds like a garbage truck. And today's not even garbage day. Seven of Swords and the Empress. Okay. All right. Um, Nine of Cups and the Nine of Pentacles. I think that's the difficult thing about thoughts, though. In holding a thought, concentrating, fermenting a thought long enough for it to become a thing, is that, that's if there's a significant enough amount of time, that's when doubt can creep in, distraction, and other things. Right. And so it's almost like if you're 3D printing something and you have to print it all in one go, then it's like you load the plan into the program, you set up all of your materials, and then it starts to print. And it's like if the program freezes, meaning the thoughts sort of again, doubt or distraction, then it like stops. And maybe it doesn't have to, like, maybe you don't have to scrap it and rebuild it. It's just like it's a pause in the building of the program. And so it may take even longer potentially. It doesn't have to. Um, yeah, so I'm doing the magician and temperance as magic and transmutation. I want minor. Maybe I'll do okay. The majors, magician and temperance. The court cards as the practitioners will be the Queen of Wands for magic, and I want to say the Knight of Pentacles for alchemy transmutation. Knight of Pentacles or like a Page of Swords. Page of Swords because it's learned. Knight of Pentacles for the process. I'm gonna lean Knight of Pentacles. Yeah. And then for the minors, which is the practice, I could do. It sounds like rushing air. One second. I'm still trying to think. I could do. Is it this one? I have an old gaming laptop, and okay, because it's an old gaming laptop, it can run kind of warm. It's in economy mode, but I thought there was a thing that said like what the temperature was. I'm sure it's fine. Um, I'm gonna turn this on and then see how distracting it is. I'm pretty sure I won't have to yell, but three, two, one. Okay. One, two, three. All right. 1 second. All right. Oops. 1 second. Oh gosh. Okay. I think it's good. I don't even have chat on, so if there were someone here, you couldn't even tell me. Well, unless you could text me, in which case you would be able to. All right, I'm gonna leave it on, or at least I'm gonna turn it on like intermittently just to make sure my laptop doesn't overheat. It hasn't ever overheat on me, but also um, I turn on the fan and I ventilate it. So I'm not trying to have it first. So yeah, I almost want to say Eight of Pentacles for because there's understanding, there's an exchange. Maybe I'll do the Six of Pentacles for that like equivalent exchangeness, even outside obviously a Full Metal Alchemist. When we talk about transmutation, a lot of times it's turning one thing into another. Even like the conservation of energy, right? When it's like you go from one type of energy to another. You could go from kinetic energy to electric energy with like a water wheel, right? The or even a wind turbine. I'm assuming with the movement of the wheel, that like that kinetic force of movement is transferred in some way to electricity, and you may have some losses to whatever. So in that case, I could do the Six of Pentacles because I feel like when it comes to minors and like give or take, that's the one. When it comes to like pure creation, or I think I'm gonna do the Two of Swords for magic. So it is the Magician, the Queen of Wands, and the Two of Swords on one side, and then Temperance, the Knight of Pentacles, and the Six of Pentacles on the other side. We have the Five of Pentacles and the Queen of Wands at the cut. And again, I don't know what this is. It could be like instead of magic and transmutation or alchemy, it could be like um, logic and intuition slash faith. Logic being like, here is a tried and true, tested way to go about getting from point A to point B. And that be more sort of transmutive, right? If you put in 5 years here and then do this thing and then take this accreditation, whatever, then you would be qualified to do something else. Versus like a more sort of intuitive, your path is your life is your own to decide type approach, where you don't necessarily do the standard, traditional, or normal, but you have an intuitive feeling that if you keep doing what you're going to do, things will ultimately work out for you. And maybe you'll get to some point where you don't have the standard, traditional um, route, but you still end up in whatever place you end up in, right? You could apply it in many ways. It could also be, for example, let's say that like there is some kind of dynamic in your life that you wish to change, and it's almost, or it's something like you could wake up all of a sudden one day and decide to do something, to like be different. You can wake up all of a sudden one day and decide to be different. You don't necessarily have to. I feel like this isn't even. I'm so sorry. I feel like 1 second. Now it's, but you know what? It may be slightly off because I think the right might be. Wait. I think the right might be one higher than the left. Okay, let me. Right? One. Boom. Top one. Boom. I don't know. I feel like this is off. That may have fixed it. It may have made it worse. I don't know. I'm going to leave it. Yeah, it could be like you may think that you have to go through this process or wait until whatever, or you could just all of a sudden wake up one day and decide, I've made a decision. I feel like I'm not getting any air through the windows, so I might as well shut them. I'm going to shut the windows and then I'm going to focus and we're going to get down to this, okay? And maybe the lack of, you know what, let's just go for it. It's fine. I hear the air running now. Yeah, I'm going to shut the windows. We're going to be right back. And I'm going to focus, I promise. I knew as soon as I said distraction. I was like, oof. As soon as I said distraction. Oof. Oof. Oops. All right. Okay. All right. That's what we're doing. Man, I'm going to timestamp this actually. Intramble is the intro/ramble. And then pulling, we'll say 3350. I love that. Like they move the time to the upper right in this bar above. So when I edit the description live, I can still see the time when I'm doing timestamps. This is your reminder that timestamps on this channel are generally approximations, but Seven of Cups and the Ten of Swords, Seven of Cups and the Ace of Pentacles, Seven of Cups and the Ace of Cups, Four of Swords and the Ace of Cups. All right. Oops, shuffle. We'll do 3 total, and then I'll cut it. Ooh, there. Oops, there's the third. Page of Swords flipped over, and a cut. Page of Swords is not. No, the Page of Swords was a contender to be the minor transmuter, but it is not. I could have went. It's fine. Alrighty. Bottom 3, we have the Seven of Swords, the Tower, and the Ace of Swords. With the Hanged Man after that Ace of Swords. Ace of Swords is 1, the Tower 16. And then the Seven of Swords is 7. It could be 177 because 1 plus 6 is 7. Or it could be 1167. 17 to. Honestly, a few years ago, back when America was having its Pluto return, and all of the Americas having its Pluto return-ness that was happening, I saw that the average lifespan of a civilization is 250 years, which corresponds roughly to a nation or to someone's first Pluto return. And I feel like the closer we creep to 250 years, the more aware of that fact it's just like every now and then. I feel like there was a point in time where it was very heavily like 250 years, 250 years. Maybe it's because I've been on vacation. It hasn't come to mind. Well, within the past week. Anyway, it would be a 1776. I feel like it's fine. All right. Queen of Wands. She is our practitioner of magic, and she is in between the Chariot and the Hangman. So either between Cancer and Pisces, Cancer and water, Cancer and the moon. See, what I love about this is, though, it's like she. Okay, let's just keep going. Let me try to remember my significators. So I'm looking for the Magician, Temperance, the Knight of Pentacles, the Two of Swords, and the Six of Pentacles. Six of Pentacles is in between the Six of Wands and Temperance. Temperance is in between the Four of Pentacles and the Six of Pentacles. So we have the Alchemy and the Alchemist that have come out side by side, essentially. I think I was going to use the Two of Pentacles, but nah. Oops. The Magician is in between the Empress and the Three of Pentacles, which is interesting because the Hangman is also three. And so I'm looking for the Two of Swords and the Knight of Pentacles. Two of Swords is in between the King of Cups and the Hermit. The Hermit is looking at the High Priestess. The Knight of Pentacles is in between the Ten of Pentacles and the Emperor. Cool. And then the last three cards. So after that Ten of Pentacles, we have the Six of Swords, the World, and the Sun. Mm-hmm. I wish I had a little bit more space. That's fine. No. This isn't Alchemist, the Alchemist and Alchemy. This is Alchemy and like as a practice and as a sort of whole. It's almost like these two together is making the most of a not great situation or making do with what you have. With that, like Four of Pentacles, Six of Wands. It's like getting creative with one's materials. Right. And then again, the Ten of Pentacles, which is kind of like the Ten of Pentacles in the SKT is the dynasty. The Ten of Pentacles is it's like multi-generational wealth. At the very least, it's something that spans for generations. Right. So it's almost like you have the emperor and the dynasty. On the other side, they're not even looking at each other, which is interesting. Um, so before and after the magician is the Three of Pentacles and the Empress. Before and after the Queen, the magician is like magic. It's the Three of Pentacles and the Empress. Around the magician, which is the practitioner, is the Chariot and the Hanged Man. VIIXII. 7 and 12. Before and after the practitioner of magic is the Hermit and the King of Cups. I don't know what the point. I'm not the point. I don't know what the hope maybe was. I love like I've only had this deck for I think less than a year now. I think I got it in like October, November. I think I got it in November. The traditional like standard Rider Waite Smith. I feel like I have some that may be a little bit more that may illuminate and elucidate the topic or the question of interest maybe a little bit better, but it's fine. The practitioner of alchemy. I guess in terms of like if you think of like back in the day, what I'm assuming back in the day of um like the medicinal more so practices, I guess, or role in alchemy. If like there's the train. I was literally right there. Um that is so weird. It's weird that it's so close because I feel like I don't maybe it's how the streets are lined out. Cause I feel like I don't remember driving over those tracks. And they're so close. It's like we would have to. Maybe I'm just oblivious in most ways. You hear that? It's because of the dynasty and the emperor. I could see like a court physician, alchemist type thing. Okay, so around, I don't know how I want to break this down. I'm gonna give this two shuffles, two of these, and one of those, and I'm gonna cut it. The top card will be transmutation. The bottom card will be magic. Alchemy versus okay, they'll come together. Justice is on the table with the Queen of Cups. So we'll cut it. Temperance, Nine of Cups. The Magician, Page of Wands. Okay. Page of Wands, Queen of Wands. Strength at the bottom of the deck. The Lady and the Lion. All right. So, because I'm looking at let me show you. This is around temperance, which is transmutation and alchemy. It's the Four of Pentacles and the Six of Pentacles, which is literally withholding and sharing. Four of Pentacles withholds, the Six of Pentacles shares. The sharing of the Six of Pentacles, though, is one based upon need. So there is a criteria here. Right. Around the practitioner is the Ten of Pentacles. What I also like about the Ten of Pentacles and the Emperor is, again, the Ten of Pentacles is dynasty, multi-generational wealth. The Emperor is the Emperor. And there is that whole, like, the point of alchemy is to turn lead into gold, to turn base, worthless material that would be discarded into something highly valuable. And obviously, if you could turn lead into gold, you'd be a very, very, very wealthy person. And so to see that reflected in the Ten of Pentacles, plus this Emperor around the Knight of Pentacles, which is the significator for the practitioner of alchemy. Somebody that wants to get rich, have the Midas touch, essentially. Now, the practice is between temperance and the Six of Wands. Because the Six of Wands is here, it's like kind of giving like showy, maybe. But with the rising sun on temperance, because temperance is that angel, it feels like the energy of a 5. And temperance is 14, which is a 5. It feels like the energy of a 5 in terms of it's something that's meant to expand and change how, like, the very foundations of something. In terms of maybe belief. Right now, with advanced, I feel like what was sort of alchemy in its heyday in the ooh of it, it's like now we understand that, like, if you combine multiple things, you'll get something new. You can get something new. Or if you apply heat, like there are different chemical processes. There are different processes that you can put certain materials under to have them change in some kind of way. And we understand that. Like cooking is alchemy, right? When you brown meats and the proteins denature, and if you glaze it first and the sugars caramelize on top of it and all of that stuff, like all of those different reactions that happen to the different ingredients under heat, and then the overall flavor of the dish as they sort of complement each other. But it's almost like it was supposed to be the beginnings of understanding that there's more. And maybe, did this turn off? Did I turn it off? Maybe it turned itself off. It also has a tendency to slip. So I gotta like push it up sometimes. It puts a science to it. So not only is it us beginning to understand that there's more, but we start to understand the how, which leads us to understand the why. Right? If I heat this thing, then it changes in some way. Right? That's understanding the how. And then, like, why does it change in this way? So it's kind of like a five, but also like a seven. Seven in the way of like sort of peeling the veil back a little bit. Five in the way again of how it's meant to not only be a platform for change, but like shake things up. Now, I guess I didn't have a clear image vision in mind when I was like, let's get a significator for the practitioner or for the practice, either, really. But it's almost like it's also too, I don't know if it's meant to be showy or if it just is. Well, that's the practitioner. It feels like there are benefits though, right? Because I'm looking at the angel on the left with the six of wands on the right of this practitioner. And I don't know if this is like, yeah, well, if the approach is turn lead into gold, and if someone can turn lead into gold, then how many people would sort of have the ability to do that but choose not to live in like opulence? You know what I mean? Because the angel is here, it almost feels antithetical to what could be this like showboaty type energy. But it's almost like there's also a purpose sort of in it and behind it, right? So if someone is like loud with not that's okay, low hanging fruit. It wasn't until I was in the place, it wasn't until I was at a place in my own life where I was like ready to start changing myself and my life and everything that I started to see the value in testimony. I feel like when I was younger and in church, it almost seemed like people were kind of bragging. And especially it's like, well, if you turn on the news, there's somebody like praying that they aren't where they are, experiencing what they're experiencing, and their salvation might be release from the mortal coil. And then it's like you go to church and someone's like, "Oh, I just got my 15th car," and it's like not exactly, but maybe to the young, more empathic me, it was like it's people starving in the world, and the testimony is like someone else just got like more. That's kind of sort of, well, I guess when I was struggling with it when I was younger, as I'm sure a lot of people sort of struggle with life, like living life, seeing certain things in the world, and coming to terms with the concept of a higher power, a powerful higher power, a present higher power. And then it's like you see suffering, and then you see like massive wealth inequality, and you're just like, but after I got to that point, it's like, you share a testimony to like sort of see what's possible or what can happen, and or to see how the divine is moving, and it can like bolster faith. It can re not reaffirm, yeah, reaffirm. It could reaffirm and embolden one's faith, but it can also build like trust, right? If God did it for them, then God can do it for me too. And so it's like there's that sort of benefit to, even if the point wasn't to be all showboaty or whatever, it still benefits in seeing, like, for example, the people that they get a lot of their content is like, I'm helping this person do that and I'm helping these other people, especially if the content is real and it's not just an actor that they're like, that is made to look like they're in dire straits and then they get the money. Like, you could say, why is it that, like, why can't you just be a good person and not have the cameras on? Why do you have to publicize and, create content out of bin or whatever? But, when you're living in times, or if you're in a space where it can be difficult to see to come across in your feed the, like, wonderful, generous, compassionate, kind, caring, like the good in humanity, then it's like we wouldn't have that as not necessarily a counter narrative to the terrible things that are happening, but it's like it could be easy to forget, especially in a scrolling session, not necessarily doom scrolling, right? And that might inspire someone else to be a little bit more kind, generous, compassionate, and caring, you know, regardless of if it's for clout or if it's through genuine compassion. Somebody that would have otherwise been hungry, that day is fed type energy. Ultimately, between the Four of Pentacles and the Six of Pentacles, you could say it's an energy of redistribution. And even in the image of temperance, it's redistributing the water from one cup to another. Okay. Now, when it comes to magic, it is the Three of Pentacles and the Empress. What, like, there's something here about, it's like supplemental, right? Like, the Empress is pregnant and she's gonna have a baby. It's fine. Just let me breathe for a second. All right. Okay. It's something supplemental, right? So for the Empress, it could be like accommodations. I remember when I worked my first big boy job, my first post grad job, there was someone who had a baby and she would have to pump at work, right? And there were like accommodations that were made for her to pump at work. And it's like, like there are accommodations, there are things that are supplemental. So like it could be childcare, um, it could be all kinds of things, but it's like the different ways that people can contribute, and systems and businesses and organizations, different ways that the different parts and pieces of someone's life as they are, especially the parent of a newborn, when they require more whatever. I don't know, girl, I ain't never had a kid. um it's like everything that's there to help them, and so it supplements, it helps assure something. And so between the Three of Pentacles and the Empress, like, let's say, for example, if there's something that, like, this feels more kind of sort of like the will of the divine a little bit, where it's like if you want to do something, then it's how the universe conspires in a way to make it happen. But beyond that, it's almost like being the empress. As you are like giving birth to something, then it's like all of the little different ways, again, that the universe conspires to assist you. It's how God might, let's say you need somebody to do something. Let's say that you're having a like a small wedding. You're helping someone plan a small wedding, right? And there's stuff that you don't know. But, all of a sudden, maybe one day you're somewhere and you notice that there's a person with a whole bunch of flowers. And ultimately, they're going to help you do the flower arrangements. Either they will give you flowers that, aren't going to sell, or they will give you a discount, or they'll tell you how to arrange them to make them pretty or whatever. Like, you don't have that information. You just so happen upon a florist or someone who's done that. You get the help you need to do the thing that you want, right? Let's say that you have a business idea, and all of a sudden one day you meet somebody in legal who can help you with a patent, or you meet somebody who is like has a radio show or something, someone who could like promote or market or whatever. It's that like the chance encounters and synchronicities that help us get where we're going. And again, that's that. When it comes to the practitioner of magic, it stands between the seven of the chariot and the hanged man, which could be Cancer Pisces energy. Between Cancer and Pisces, you have Aries, Taurus, and Gemini. Aries, Taurus, Gemini is an interesting energy because we have the Empress. Aries, Taurus, Gemini is like you could say the first few years of someone's life, from a newborn to like a toddler. I feel like Gemini is still like up to a preteen, maybe. I feel like when the hormones and stuff start kicking in, that's probably getting into like Cancer territory a little bit. It's the first third, the first, not trimester, because there's four of them, the first quarter. Duh. It's the first quarter. We've seen, okay. With the hangman, you could get an understanding of subtle forces. And with the chariot, you have an iron will, because it's the will of the chariot that keeps, it's the will of the charioteer that keeps the chariot in line, that keeps these two sphinxes in line. Like, notice that there are no like reins, or what do you call, is it a riding crop? I don't know. It's a force of will that keeps these two things on the same page, moving in the same direction. And again, with the enlightened state of the hermit, there's like this enlightened mysticism, or this understanding of, I want to say, supreme forces and the will to direct and guide them. And then around the practitioner, you have the hermit and the king of cups. What I like about the king of cups here is, or what's interesting about the king of cups here is you still have like a ruler type energy, right? Rather than the emperor, and further the ten of pentacles, the dynasty, the empire. It's like the emperor and its empire. You still have like a king, but it's the king of cups. So it's more like emotionally in tune, and like you could say spiritual and stuff. It's less about the earthly physical possessions. It's not necessarily about, well, instead of turning lead into gold, I could just create millions of gold bars. No lead required. It's not presenting that way. Um, it's almost like, because I'm looking at the hermit gaze at the star in its lantern. Kind of, sort of. Looks like the hermit may have fallen asleep, honestly. Holding on to the wand. I actually didn't catch that. Is this like the whole life cycle? Like from young person to old person? From the page of wands to the hermit? From the desert to the sea? Question mark. It's Mr. Worldwide. Let me stop. And like I feel like what came out under the alchemy and transmutation. Again, I don't know if it's because of the nature of people in general, or if it's the nature of that transmutive or transmutative energy specifically that leans more like it's about what you can get out of it, almost type energy. Again, you have like the 10 of pentacles, the 6 of wands. 10 of pentacles, the accumulation of wealth. 6 of wands, which is like not necessarily always, but it can be kind of showboaty. Like it's flashy, it's meant to be seen type energy. And it's not that on the other side it isn't meant to be seen. But as the hermit is gazing into that star in its lantern, again, especially with that, there's Pisces, Virgo, Pisces, Virgo sort of dynamic there between the hangman and the hermit. It's like, gazing, it's not gazing into the abyss. It feels like gazing into the abyss, but it sounds like they're not extremely different, because it feels like gazing into the abyss, but it feels like learning like the mysteries, deep mysteries. And maybe that's why the King of Cups sits here as a master of the mysteries. Like it feels, again, like when you gaze, like that's kind of sort of like hanging from the royal tree Odin, right? This whole process of enlightenment sort of here. But um I don't know. It's kind of like the Ace of Swords, Ten of Swords. It was kind of like the Ace of Spades, Ten of Spades, King of Swords, which I'm not surprised by, because again, that was the reading that sort of precipitated this alchemy versus magic. The magic here is in divine provision, right? Because again, it feels like we are the Empress, growing, nurturing, caring for, carrying, gestating something. And this Three of Pentacles is all the ways that the divine directly and indirectly assists. Directly and indirectly being like, it's fine. Ten of Wands and the Four Swords are behind the Strength card, and the Knight of Wands is behind the Four Swords. Knight of Wands, Four of Cups, and the Nine of Swords with the Four of Wands behind that. Okay. So this took me back to, because again, it feels like this as an energy is more readily available, which isn't surprising, especially with those like indirect ways that we are assisted. Indirect ways kind of sort of feels like it's the qualities of the, I want to say qualities of the machinations of the universe. It's the way that things were designed. And it feels like it plays more so on that design than any intervention, assistance, direct, or interference. Meaning, again, like if you put something out there, then naturally it's like a opposites, not opposite. It's like attracts like, right? It's like if you understand how that, it's not necessarily understand. It's like it always works. It just works. There's nothing special that you have to do to get it to work. It's just like it's always working. We may not necessarily be aware of or always cognizant, conscious of how exactly it's working for us in ways in certain environments, arenas, right? For example, if we say that we want something, but truly we don't believe it, or if there's like a mismatch between the external confidence and the internal like doubt or whatever, then there's like this inconsistency. So the thing might happen, it might not. And then, and like those cases, instances, or scenarios are like when we don't see how we contribute to certain stuff, or we don't see how we don't always call for disaster and catastrophe upon ourselves to leave us traumatized to various degrees of severity. I'm not, especially here, going to be like, but sometimes in less extreme circumstances, especially, we kind of sort of like work against ourselves mentally, emotionally, spiritually, even with each other, right? Like if we want to, it reminds me of this person that I know who, it's like while we were in school, that person was kind of sort of like very antagonistic in a way that was like not confrontational, but like that's kind of like that was her thing. But then one day she was like, she said something about like wishing that she had more friends or something like that, which was kind of a surprise to me a little bit because I'm like, there's nothing about the way that you interact with people that I would read as like this person wants to be friends with me. You know what I mean? And of course, there are different kinds of people, but it was almost that like because it was like such a group dynamic, there was like a default sort of inclusion in a lot of things. Like it was a group that wasn't necessarily very clicky. It was just like the group. And like if you're there, then you're kind of sort of just included in everything. But if you act standoffish, or if you distance yourself from everyone else type of energy, then it's like, how is anybody supposed to know that, like, number one, you actually want to be there, or number two, that you actually care to, be whatever. How did I get here? Oh yeah, that sometimes like this, it's always working, but we may not necessarily, it's one of those energies. And because it's an energy of something that's always working, that's why I'm not surprised to sort of see it as more open. It feels like it's a lot more open and accessible, but less known. And I don't know if that falls into the category of like things we take advantage of, right? Like we, or things that it's like because we don't have to think about it, or because it's expected, or because it's always been, we don't think to like look into it or question it or something. This almost takes me to, I think it was the reading after that one, which may not have been the last one. It may have been the one before. With that whole, it was that energy. It came through in the metaphor of spell patterns and different types of energy, right? In the metaphor, it was like if you have a spell pattern for projection and you put an elemental energy in there, like fire or water, then you're going to get fireball or water ball because it projects that elemental energy. But if you put in a spiritually attuned emotional energy, like joy or whatever, then it will project that feeling out. And if someone doesn't have a will or a presence about themselves, an awareness of themselves, and you could say like good boundaries, then they could take on that emotion and just kind of sort of go with it, or not sort of realize that it's being projected sort of at them. And then they're just subject to its effects, right? It was that whole like, there could be something that we've taken advantage of, or something that was theorized a long time ago. This had to be the ace of spades, 10 of spades, because I feel like that goes back to the king of swords as the one that could realize the potential in a certain type of way. And it was because it was that whole like, maybe there's something that was theorized a long time ago, before we had, it was that sufficiently advanced technology, before we had the ability to validate certain things. And so we just had to rely on math and calculation, vibes and feelings, and more distanced, I guess, understanding of something. But now that technology is where it is, we can sort of directly observe something. There's something that can now be directly observed, that we don't have to rely upon predictions and models and indirect uh, contact and all this other stuff. And in validating something with these new technologies or with heightened senses, it's like we could have applied that breakthrough to multiple arenas to have breakthroughs all over the place, right? And instead of like sufficiently advanced technology, this could be as you have grown over the years and as you have lived your life, journeyed your journey, healed in the ways that you've healed. There are certain things that you're not only like more sensitive to, but it's like things that you have the capacity to maybe sit with now, to more directly observe and confront, rather than sort of taking a roundabout way of kind of getting at something, right? Like, let's say, for example, shout out to, I don't, ooh, girl. Is he is he still on YouTube? Shout out to Rob. I was like, can't remember if he went back to Rob's tarot. I don't remember. Shout out to Rob. Um, but it's almost giving me the, are you Rob's tarot again? He is Rob's tarot. Okay. All right. All right. Shout out to Rob's tarot. Um, it's giving me a vibe of like, let's say um, you have been seeing a mental health professional, right? And in talking about things, it's like, well, it sounds like this phenomenon has a root at this occurrence in your life. And so, like, that's sort of like the theorized part, right? But then, like, let's say that you actually, and it's like, under that theory, you work through it and you make yourself strong. Making yourself strong just meaning like solid enough that anything that would like chip away at you because of that thing, like you're not going to crumble and fall completely apart. You've made yourself strong, meaning you can stay decently present and continue to function. Right. But let's say, like, it's almost like you've done that so well, you've healed so well, and you've addressed it so well that it's almost like now you're ready to go back to the event, right? So be it through hypnotherapy. That's why I was like, shout out to Rob. Be it through hypnotherapy or any kind of exercise that is meant to like take you back to the event rather than just sort of like talking about it. It's like you're ready to confront the trigger and you're ready to confront the trauma. And in that confrontation, there's something that you learn or something that you discover that gives you a new sense of direction or a new feeling of like freedom and liberation. Because it's almost like, let's say that there's this thing that happened, and because you weren't ready to face it, it's like you held on to the worst of something. But once you actually confront it head on, then that's when you discover something else that maybe you've been missing because it was too closely associated with that other thing that you just weren't ready, weren't capable, weren't prepared to face. And it's not like you weren't ready, capable, or prepared in a way that's meant to be like to make anyone sound like weak or whatever. Because it's like if the alternative or if in confronting something it leads to a complete shutdown, breakdown to the point where it takes significantly more time, energy, effort, resources to make recovery or functioning even remotely possible. Like if someone is going to be broken to that point, then it's better left for another day. And maybe that day never comes. It doesn't necessarily have to. Um, ooh, 1 second, the mail is here. I don't think he made any stops. He just pulled up and pulled off. Anyway, yeah. So it's and that's kind of sort of this like gazing into the abyss. But again, that's why like excuse me, it looks like gazing into the abyss, but it feels like unraveling the deeper mysteries and secrets. Because it's almost like usually, I feel like, usually in that gazing into the abyss energy, it's very easy to just like sink into it or to get lost or like for someone's mind to just fragment because they can't comprehend what it is that they're looking at. But it's like it looks like that, but the person is like actually comprehending and understanding what's happening. And so it's almost like their entire worldview is being rewritten minus the breakdown, minus the breakdown, right? She's giving what I assume Sherlockian Jimmy Neutron brain blast type, like, or was that Lucy? That was weird. That was so weird. One second. That kind of freaked me out a little bit. It's like when she's like typing on the thing, it's just like the pieces are being connected so quickly. And then it's that kind of vibe. Whereas on the other side, it feels more like close. It feels like much more hush hush, which is weird because it's like on the side of like transmutation alchemy, it's so like showboaty and so like the energy of it feels so closely tied to the experience with like wealth, money, status. Wealth is money. Well, not necessarily, because you can have a wealth of multiple things, right? It feels like because it is so physical with the wealth, money, status, because it's so like earthly, again, like lead into gold, even chemistry, even if like, even with chemistry and medicine, when it's not about making a lot of money, it's still so like, you know, there's a whole process from point A to point B with however many steps to sort of get there. It's very like dense and physical, which is almost, it's almost like, you could say it's almost like man playing God, almost, because on the side of magic is maybe like an intuitive spiritual understanding of certain systems that govern physical life as a human, right? Be they mental, spiritual, emotional, including physical, but in a very like intuitive sort of felt way. Whereas on the other side of transmutation alchemy, it almost reads as like man playing God, because it's like it's learning those systems and forces, manipulating things, and then like reaching a certain outcome. I feel like I didn't describe that well. And, you know, this is me we're talking about. If you don't know, I love science and technology in general. In general, by and large, I love science and technology. I feel like these past few years, I'm like, maybe I don't love it as much as I thought I did. um, but in general, I love science and technology, but I feel like it's kind of, and the reason why I love like sensors, circuits, and like data is because I love how you can make sense of the world. Like my brain operates in metaphor, right? And I feel like there are more commonalities and links between things than people necessarily would think. And that's why I'm good at learning, or like that's why I can learn some things. I can pick them up pretty quickly because it's like I can find parallels between things that I already know, that I've already learned, or observations that I have because of things that I've already experienced. And then it's like as I'm learning this thing, I'm not necessarily intentionally trying to find all these parallels, but it's just like the more you learn, the more you kind of sort of see where they line up. And if all of this is the case over here, then maybe it's also true over here. And sometimes, more often than not, you find out there is some kind of lineup coherence. Sometimes things are a little different. Sometimes things are completely different. That's why it's also not to be rigid in that, right? It's like having the capacity to see those connections, but also the presence to allow something to be what it is. right? And it can be a delicate balance because sometimes you'll listen, you'll sit, you'll observe, and you'll think like one for one, it's going to be like something that you already know, but then plot twist, it's like different. Not everything and everyone is the same. OMG, imagine. Who knew? But this, and maybe it's because, I don't know. Maybe it's this like results driven, outcome driven sort of philosophy of like turning lead into gold and stuff like that. That it doesn't necessarily allow for something to be what it is because it's always with the aim and with the goal of accomplishing a certain thing, right? It's like having it's what the TV and the internet tells me about having a child that you have a vision for when they're born. Like they're gonna do this, they're gonna go to the school that I went to, they're gonna be on play on this team that I played on, they're gonna get accepted into this program that everyone in our family has been accepted to, and they're gonna be this. And so it's like from sometimes even before a child is conceived, but at the very least, sometimes from the moment they're born, you already have their whole life planned out for them to the point where you may not actually see, like, not you specifically. Obviously, it's never you specifically. Some people, according to the internet and TV, because they have that whole vision for their child's life, they don't see who their child actually is. And if the child just sort of falls into that, then they will never truly know their child. And their child may never truly know themselves because they've always been told who they are. And again, it's not that, like, there are times to be results oriented, but also it can be beneficial sometimes to have the capacity to leave the door open to allow yourself to see the truth of what something is, because that may be even more beneficial. And the Nine of Cups did come out over temperance. It's desire based. And it's like, what can I use to make my desire a thing? So basically, we just ultimately wrap right back around to where we were the other day when the hangman came out and it was Odin hanging from the world tree, trying to learn whatever to prevent Ragnarok. But, thought he got all that he needed and he'd be good, but no, he wasn't. And I feel like, I don't know, with the Page of Wands there's like a lot of I feel like the Page of Wands has the curiosity of the Page of Swords, the determination of the Page of Pentacles, and that intuitive ear of the Page of Cups. But there's something about like the passion and excitement with this Page of Wands, where it's almost like the Page of Wands could get something out of someone that no one else would, just through kind of sort of like the example I was given earlier, just through being interested or just through being curious, like being openly curious and openly interested and openly like investing and getting to know even like a person, right? It's like you can learn a lot more about someone when you allow them to just, speak of their experience and stuff. And when they can feel that you genuinely and legitimately like care and want to know, rather than just asking pointed questions to get, the information that you want or the side of the story that you want or whatever. So cool. Cool, cool. Again, I feel like it's like sometimes I'll be like, ooh, but then I'll be like, okay. And maybe that's the another difference. See, but I feel like that is a fine line, right? Because you have this emperor energy over here, and there's the energy with even like yeah, there's the energy around alchemy, transmutation of having an end goal in mind, but around the practitioner of magic, we see that chariot, and it's literally a force of will. So it's almost like, what's the difference between the force of will? What's the difference between the will necessary to keep something focused enough and the control of transmutation and alchemy? Because it is very clinical. And don't know. I don't know how to communicate because like it feels different, right? I don't know. You know what? I'm gonna put everything else back except for the practitioners. So everything except for the Knight of Pentacles and the Queen of Wands. I'm gonna shuffle all the cards, and then I'll do a top three and a bottom three. And I gotta go potty. I got to go potty. I think I've only gone once. I almost went when I got up to check them out, but that's fine. I'm trying to like space these out as I put them back. Space these out as I put them back. Yeah, so maybe that's the measuring um, around, excuse me, the force of temperance or around the transmutation alchemy because it was the Four of Pentacles and the Six of Pentacles, right? So it was like giving enough to whatever, but not so many of the secrets that you, whatever. I feel like I use whatever a lot because I'm like, you know, that's one reason why I love writing because if I get hung up on a word, I can just skip it and allow the train of thought to continue, and then I can just try to find the word later. But if I'm speaking, I might remember, I might for it's a who knows situation. Who knows? Who knows? I can't wait to use the SKT for some reason. Title card in the chariot. See, but that's literally the force of will to rein in these. I don't want to say cosmic forces, but fundamental. The force of will to rein in those fundamental energies that are the components that make up the overall default thing, right? The overall default thing being, um, you know, uh, being what it is, all those things that I talked about. And I don't have a metaphor. Um, I guess it's like, oh, girl, I don't know enough about cars or toaster ovens. Um, because it's almost like there's a science in getting to know how to use something. And it's almost like, I want to say, I don't know. I feel like I don't know enough about cars for this to maybe hold as much weight as some would like. But I want to say it's like the difference between being a mechanic and an engineer, where and it's not a fine like those two things aren't mutually like exclusive. There's a lot of overlap in between them, but it's almost like the mechanic is so familiar with the different components and aspects of the whole that they become proficient in servicing that vehicle or whatever. But it's like the engineer is so in tune with what those different components do that if the engineer wanted to strip down the vehicle for parts and build something completely different, they would know how to be able to do that because they it's almost like they know more about the components on an individual basis versus knowing about the components in relation to the function they play in relation to everything else. And there's something about that chariot in the title card that it's like it transitions from mechanic into engineer because now it's looking at the components of the system rather than it's almost like and I didn't take anatomy. I dropped it because the only one that was available was the one with the lab, and I am not dissecting any kind of cadaver, real or virtual. I don't have the constitution for it, and I'm not trying to pass out in the middle of class because a little bit of blood, real or fake, or just anyway. But it's almost like because you can learn organs and suborgans question mark as like different systems like your endocrine system and your respiratory system and stuff like that, but again it's almost like it's always something in relation to other things and it's not necessarily enough specific knowledge about the thing itself. And there's something about that chariot with the title card that knows about the thing itself or that gets to know about the thing itself that leads to something. I don't know. So cut it. Final three for the Knight of Pentacles. We have the Nine of Pentacles, the Eight of Wands, and the Six of Swords. Final three for the Queen of Wands. We have the Star, the Eight of Swords, and the Seven of Wands. What I automatically love, Justice at the top, Knight of Swords at the bottom. What I automatically love about this star and the Eight of Swords is because on around the practice, we had the Hermit and the King of Cups that were flanking that Two of Swords, and it was like the Hermit was staring at the star and the lantern. This is the star freed, and here's this Eight of Swords. The Eight of Swords with this star, it's like how you probably shouldn't stare at the sun directly in certain points in time because you don't want to burn holes in your cornea or whatever. Or it's like when something, because again, with this Queen of Wands, that hermit was gazing into the abyss, but was also unraveling the secrets of those deeper mysteries. And so this is like seeing the star or seeing the personification of the star, but with the blindfold on so that like it wouldn't be blinded, right? I know Supernatural did it. And I feel like it's something that you see sometimes. Like if there's an angel in their like raw form, then like you can't look at them. They have to do something to be observable safely by the human eye. And they might still look weird, But they have to be something to be perceptible. If not, then like you go blind, right? Her eyes burned out of the sockets in her head because she tried to spiritually, because she was like that. She wasn't physically looking, even spiritually, even like her eyes physically burned in the sockets of her physical head because her mind's eye was gazing at something that she shouldn't have been looking at. Anyway, that's why the blindfold is here with the star. And you see the star, no cage, in that personification. That's why I love it. And then we have the Seven of Wands. Uh, I feel like this is an application of that Archangel Commander energy, but like to another level. It feels like the Archangel Commander used the tool and instructed in the use of a tool. This almost feels more like being. Or maybe it's an evolution of like not needing the tool anymore. And that way, and because we're talking about magic here, it reminds me of the instruments and implements of the wizard magician, how they go from like the staff to the wand to the focus, and how you eventually get to the point where you don't need any of that. You don't need a tool to focus. And maybe that's because of the chariot. You don't need a tool to harness and focus certain energies. Your will alone. Girl, and it's like, girl, wait. I'm gonna just read it how it came out. I already knew that we was going here. This is where I want to be. I just wish it were easier to see in the cards sometimes. You know what I mean? And it's like the Seven of Wands stands as tall as this star. Not as tall as the Seven of Wands stands tall like the star stands tall. The star would be like a titan, and the Seven of Wands would be like a giant, right? So instead of being like 100 feet tall, the Seven of Wands is maybe like 15 feet, and most people sort of average around 6, right? So more than double, but not an order of magnitude like the star. But that's why it's just like teaching how to be rather than it being like a tool or a practice or something externally that is the focus. I mean, and I guess it was the hermit. The hermit had its staff and it was looking at the lantern. It feels like transmutation. I don't want to say it's get rich quick and change your life, but it's easier. It's like changing circumstances. Nine of Wands, or Nine of Pentacles, Eight of Wands, Six of Swords. There's no 7 here. We're missing the 7 of Cups, right? 9 Pentacles, 8 Wands, 6 Swords. We're missing a 7 and we're missing Cups. We saw the 7 of Cups at the cut, or did I see that at the cut before I went live? I remember it was the 7 of Cups and the Ace of Pentacles. And then I think it was the 7 of Cups and the Ace of Cups. But I don't remember what the 7 of Cups originally came out at the cut with. Anyway. Cool. Them's was final cards. Take it as it resonates if it resonates. If it don't resonate, don't take it. I hope that you all have an amazing whatever whenever you see this. I hope you're acting in alignment to make all that you wish to experience your reality. I hope that whatever you need along your path journey and what you find. And until next time, this has been whatever this has been.